In 2012, Caterpillar unveiled the largest hydraulic mining shovel ever built. 1,270 tons, 4,500 horsepower, a bucket big enough to scoop 80 tons of earth in a single pass, and to fill a 400-ton haul truck in 3 bites. It used hybrid technology no mining shovel had ever carried before, storing energy in massive capacitors during every swing and feeding it back into the hydraulics during the dig. 25% less fuel per ton than anything else on the market. Caterpillar called it the future of ultra-class mining. They built one prototype, they announced commercial production was coming, then they never mentioned it again. The largest hydraulic excavator ever constructed was built inside a factory in South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And as far as anyone outside Caterpillar knows, it never left. This is the story of a machine that died before it could dig, but it is also the story of something bigger. The factory where that prototype was built had been making the most important mining equipment on Earth for 123 years. Caterpillar bought it, stripped it, and walked away. The 6120B was not just a canceled prototype, it was the last thing that factory ever created. The building where the 6120B was assembled belonged to Bucyrus. If you are not from the mining world, the name might not mean much. But inside that world, Bucyrus was the most respected name in heavy excavation for over a century. The company started in Bucyrus, Ohio, in 1880, building steam shovels. In 1893, it relocated to South Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the city gave it 8 acres next to the railroad tracks, 5 acres of building lots, and dock space on Lake Michigan. Within a decade, Bucyrus was building the machines that reshaped the modern world. Most of the steam shovels that dug the Panama Canal were manufactured in South Milwaukee. There is a famous photograph from 1906 of President Theodore Roosevelt sitting in the operator's seat of a Bucyrus steam shovel, digging the canal himself. By 1925, Bucyrus was the largest manufacturer of excavating equipment in the world. The company once employed 10% of the entire population of South Milwaukee. Families worked there across 3 and 4 generations. Your grandfather operated a lathe at Bucyrus. Your father welded dragline booms. You assembled rope shovels. That was the deal. The factory and the city were the same thing. Over the next 80 years, Bucyrus survived mergers, recessions, name changes, and industry shifts. It bought competitors. It absorbed Marion Power Shovel, one of the other legendary names in American mining equipment. It acquired DBT, a major underground coal systems manufacturer. By 2010, Bucyrus had revenue of $3.7 billion, up from $290 million just a decade earlier. The global mining boom, driven largely by China's insatiable demand for coal, iron ore, and copper, had turned South Milwaukee into what one headline called the mining equipment manufacturing capital of the world. Bucyrus Chief Executive Officer Tim Sullivan was celebrated as the man who had built a unionized American manufacturer into a global powerhouse. The steelworkers at Local 1343 had negotiated a contract in 2009 that both sides praised. No 2-tier wages, better pensions for new hires, expanded benefits built on proven productivity. The plant hummed. Molten steel poured into molds. Heavy chains moved mining components through massive connected buildings. It looked like the rare American manufacturing success story that was actually going to last. Then Caterpillar showed up. In 2010, Caterpillar announced it was buying Bucyrus International for $8.6 billion. It was the largest acquisition in Caterpillar's history. The company promised to maintain a significant presence in South Milwaukee. Outgoing Bucyrus Chief Executive Officer Tim Sullivan told the press that the Bucyrus name would remain intact at the manufacturing complex. The city breathed a sigh of relief. Then the deal closed in the summer of 2011. Within hours, the Bucyrus signs came down, and black and yellow Caterpillar signs went up. One alderman came back from a fishing trip on a Sunday, and the signs on Milwaukee Avenue had already been changed. Tim Sullivan walked away with an estimated $29 million in cash and a total compensation package valued at roughly $45 million. The steelworkers stayed. For 1 year, it looked like it might work. The mining boom was still roaring. Caterpillar's Resource Industries segment hit $21.2 billion in revenue in 2012, and at MinExpo 2012, the industry's biggest trade show, Caterpillar made the announcement that was supposed to justify the entire acquisition. The CAT 6120B HFS, the largest hydraulic mining shovel ever built, bigger than the 6090 FS, which itself had come from Bucyrus through its acquisition of Terex Mining. The 6120B weighed approximately 1,270 metric tons and produced about 4,500 horsepower. Its bucket could handle 60 to 85 cubic yards of material depending on density. But the real breakthrough was the hybrid drive. Large capacitors stored energy generated during the swing deceleration and boom-down phases of the dig cycle. When the machine needed peak power for the digging stroke, that stored energy fed back into the hydraulics. The result was an estimated 25% reduction in fuel consumption per ton of material moved. No hydraulic shovel had ever done this at ultra-class scale. Caterpillar said the prototype had been constructed at the South Milwaukee facility. Rigorous testing and field trials would follow. Future 6120B shovels would be manufactured right there to fulfill commercial sales. The press releases ended with the same line. More information will be announced as development progresses. No more information was ever announced. In 2013, the global mining industry collapsed. Commodity prices cratered, mining companies slashed capital spending, shelved development projects, and canceled or postponed equipment orders. Caterpillar's mining revenue fell off a cliff. The resource industries segment that had peaked at over $21 billion in 2012 posted an $88 million operating loss by 2015. Caterpillar's total profit dropped 43%. The company announced it would cut 10,000 jobs worldwide. In South Milwaukee, the cuts came fast, and they came hard. Days before contract negotiations were set to begin in 2013, Caterpillar announced it was laying off 300 workers, nearly 40% of the hourly production workforce. The union had no leverage. They ratified a 6-year contract that froze wages, froze pensions, and established starting pay for new hires as low as $13.64 an hour. Days after the contract was approved, 260 workers received long-term layoff notices. Another 60 were cut in 2014. By 2015, roughly 450 workers were gone, 55% of the workforce from the old Bucyrus plant. Then Caterpillar started moving what was left. The global mining headquarters went from South Milwaukee to Oak Creek. Then engineering and technology jobs were announced to be relocating to Tucson, Arizona. 200 jobs left the city, with most transitioning in 2018. Production at the main South Milwaukee plant, the same plant where Bucyrus had operated continuously since 1893, ceased in 2016. 123 years of unbroken manufacturing ended. Tim Sullivan, who had brokered the sale and walked away with tens of millions, broke his silence to blame Wisconsin. He claimed Arizona embraced its mining heritage, while Wisconsin had rejected it. The mayor of South Milwaukee was left staring at 1 million square feet of empty industrial space in the middle of his small city. And somewhere inside that facility, or in a scrapyard nobody photographed, the largest hydraulic mining shovel ever built sat in silence. Caterpillar never issued a cancellation notice for the 6120B. They never announced it had been scrapped. They never confirmed whether it was tested, disassembled, or simply abandoned in place. The press release from 2012 remains the last official communication about the machine. More information will be announced as development progresses. That was 13 years ago. The 6120B HFS is a ghost. 1,270 tons of hybrid engineering that existed long enough to be photographed at a trade show and constructed inside a factory that was about to be gutted. The machine was announced at the peak, built at the peak, and buried by the crash that followed. The 6120B was supposed to be the machine that proved the Bucyrus acquisition was worth $8.6 billion. It used Bucyrus-developed tri-power linkage technology. It was built by Bucyrus workers in the Bucyrus factory with Bucyrus engineering expertise. The hybrid system was the kind of innovation that only comes from a company with a century of experience building the biggest digging machines on Earth. Caterpillar paid $8.6 billion to own all of that. Then commodity prices dropped, and they treated it like inventory to be liquidated. They froze the wages of the workers who built it. They laid off the engineers who designed it. They moved the headquarters, moved the engineering, ceased production, and left a city with a 123-year manufacturing legacy holding an empty building and a tax bill. The Bucyrus factory made the steam shovels that built the Panama Canal. It made the drag lines that stripped Appalachian coal. It made the rope shovels that fed China's industrial boom. And the last machine it ever produced was the largest hydraulic excavator in history, a prototype that Caterpillar announced to the world and then erased from its website. It never entered production, never loaded a single truck, never left the building where it was born. Just silence from a corporation that paid $8.6 billion for a legacy, and then decided the legacy wasn't worth keeping. That's the story of the Caterpillar 6120 BHFS, the largest excavator ever built, killed before it could dig. If you found this story worth your time, subscribe. We cover the machines that were too big, too late, or too ambitious for the world that built them.